O'Connor.
Here.
Schrock.
Here.
Hilbert.
Present.
Shaw.
Here.
I think I got everyone. Didn't go alphabetical.
Tracy.
Whiteley.
Tracy Whiteley.
I don't have
I
my
looked
name
at you.
yet.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we do have a quorum. We are also in compliance with Wisconsin open meeting laws, public record laws, and introduction of visitors and guests. Would any of you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Margie Spaeth.
Hi, Margie.
I'm a resident of Newark, and I teach at Trinity Academy for part-time.
Oh, very cool. Anybody else? Okay. Introduction of new library board trustee, Tracy Whiteley.
That's
From North
me.
Hudson. Hi, do you want to take a couple minutes and tell us about yourself?
Sure. I think, let's see, I've lived in Hudson North Hudson for 17 years, 2 daughters. Both are, one's in graduate school out in Utah and one is at St. Kate's in St. Paul. I work at Security and Financial Group, downtown St. Paul. I've been there for 12 years, and before that I worked at St. Paul Companies, which is, was bought by Travelers Insurance Company. Prior to living in North Hudson, my grandparents had a train car on the St. Croix on Galahad Road. So I would spend summers at the train car and just love the Hudson area. And so I've been here my whole life, really.
All right, well, welcome on board, Tracy. So,
Thank
Is that a pizza
There.
house?
Pardon?
Is that train car, is that over at Pizza House?
No, they donated the train car to the museum in Duluth.
Oh,
So you can see the Wasabi.
cool. All right, citizen comments. It's a point in the meeting where citizens can comment. And if anybody has one, go ahead and,
Yeah,
yes,
I'm Suri Labor,
name and where you're from.
Hudson, New Richmond, and last month I spoke about my concerns with somebody having an agenda item on history and a constitution, and was forced out, resigned, and now we have Tracy. So anyway, so in my little, somebody saw me talk, and so they had contacted me, and they showed me this book that they found on the Korean Reborn. It's on the Korean War. Very interesting book, very nice pictures, comes with a DVD, was sent to the library with a fine letter that this person found in the book on the rack downstairs for free. I guess it wasn't in the library anymore, but a very nice letter about wanting to educate people about what happened in the Korean conflict. So it's a very nice book. I don't think anybody ever looked at it. So anyway, she had found this book on the rack for free, took it home, read it, and said, she just thought, that's just too bad that was getting tossed out of the library. So I took the book. I now have my husband reading it, I'm reading it, and I've got a couple other people that are interested in reading it. So I'm sad to have seen that go. My second thing is, I spoke with Tina about my concerns about how you guys are overlooking a policy about protecting children here at the library. And one thing I would like to note, Tina, that on your website, there is it's unattended and vulnerable adult policy. I guess it was written and put on the website in the year 2015. It says review policy date is September 17th of 2019. So since maybe you might be reviewing that policy called unattended and vulnerable adult policy, I'd like to present some research that I did on what the library could do to protect children here, on presenters that may want to come here and present, do a story hour to the community, to the children here in the library. So it's Leander, Texas. They have I printed it out and I would like to give it to the secretary.
I can take it.
And it's a really good policy. So, it goes through, you know, everything that person would have to sign if they agree to be a presenter here. You know, even like nice questions of what kind of equipment you would need. But there is some fine things that they have to agree to, and that's a background check. And you wonder, like, why a background check? Well, there's a liability issue if you have somebody that presents and then touches children, has children crawling over them or whatever. So this would be protected. And then they also, I printed out their background check that the person agrees to. It covers local and national criminal background, all 50 state sex offender registries. It does a full address trace and then a social security verification. So I think that's a very informative thing, something that this library might want to consider as a board that you could look at. And the thing that the background check covers, so the other thing besides just limited liability is also public safety and confidence to the parents, protecting vulnerable populations, vulnerable adults, handicapped children, customer assurance, and fraudulent credentials. So, and it goes over child abuse, sexual abuse, a sexual assault, causing a child's death, if anybody caused, neglect of a child, kidnapping, murder, manslaughter, felony, prostitution, identity theft, burglary. So do we want anybody presenting to children under the age of 18? And this is what this library did, Leander, Texas, in writing this policy to protect and reassure parents. And it goes a list: terrorist stalking, drug offenses, arson, indecent exposure, child pornography, criminal sexual conduct. So, so I would like to submit that to record. And I wrote, the other thing I wanted to, if Sam Carey was coming, I know that he's doing fundraising for the library. This is one of the things that he could reassure people who he's trying to fundraise to, that we have this program in place. I know that last month he had concern about some potential donors to the library that they didn't want to donate until maybe something was going to be done about this. So I have a copy for him, or I could, if anybody's got an email, I could share. I could call him and talk to him about that and give him this information. So I guess that's what I have. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
And I'll submit that to you.
I'm Diane
Thank you
Yocum.
very much.
Name and where you're from, please.
Okay, I just said I'm Diane Yocum from New Richmond.
Yes, thank you.
Last month I spoke at this meeting during the citizens comment section. I expressed some concerns about the library policies regarding guest speakers and presenters of all backgrounds, and policies regarding room rentals. I was particularly questioning if background checks were done and if there was any monitoring in the rooms as to the type of activity that was taking place. I approached the board both professionally, respectfully, and calmly, asking questions. There were no accusations, but comments of concern and wanting the board to consider putting policies in place. I am sure that as board members, advice is a dime a dozen. But I hope that you do not treat all those who come with questions and suggestions as I was treated that night, and others who just wanted to question and have a discussion on policies and agenda. I surely hope that this board is not so closed-minded that suggestions and questions are reviewed as a threat. The rules of citizens' comments section are such that no response can be given at that time. The same applies when the board is in session and citizens cannot comment. In my comments section, I mentioned that Paul Burning, the board chairman, and I had spoken several times, and you can watch the video to verify that. However, when it came time for the board members to speak, Paul took it upon himself to deny all conversations that were held, and to proceed to give a lengthy and somewhat condescending tongue lashing to the group of concerned citizens that were here at this meeting. He stated that he was taken back by the fact that no one approached him personally to discuss this matter. That is not true. I have text messages and dates where we had conversations, even though not a lengthy conversation, but conversations that we had concerning this prior to that meeting last month. Additionally, Paul was asked to meet with a small group of concerned citizens on 2 separate occasions, both of which he did not attend. Paul's scenario of chasing ghosts is an insult to those who know what is going on across the river and in other communities. All we're asking is a policy. We're not asking for anybody to take any radical steps. And for him to bring in the scenario of being a religious fanatic library, I thought that was also insulting. All that was asked was the library be proactive and help prevent a crisis and create a policy, create a discussion, a policy that will not change with the turnover of board members or librarian. If you have a policy in place, that's the policy and everybody adheres to it. This was not and is not a personal attack on any one of you here. We are not questioning your integrity or your professionalism. We're asking that you have a policy in place so that people can know and be assured, like what Suri said, like the library in Texas did. We are concerned citizens, that's it. And we're sharing our concerns. We aren't protesters, but we are protectors of our children. Aren't we all mandated reporters? And it's unfortunate Barb isn't here today, because the thing is while Tina was doing her comments, there were 2 separate times on the video, as well as I felt it personally, that there were derogatory facial expressions made towards me personally. Am I going to whine about it? No, I'm not going to whine. But that's very unprofessional. We're all here for the sake of our children. This is what the library is about, for families and for children. And so the fact that whatever message was trying to be sent to me, I took it as a message of disdain and dislike. Dislike for what? For me asking questions? I view the responses of some of the board members as offensive and hateful in nature, and at the same time accusing a small group of concerned citizens as being a hate group. Tell me, where was the hate exhibited that night? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Earl Myers, St. Joseph Township. I too was at the last month's board meeting, and I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One of them is an open records request that I made on October 22nd. Now, I didn't receive those documents until after the last month's meeting, even though I was told I would have them before the meeting. But after listening to Paul's, some adjectives I can think of and were told to me, self-righteous gaslighting speech towards some people, I was even more interested in receiving those open records documents. When I started receiving phone calls asking what was that about from Paul, I could only respond that I don't know, but we're sure we will find out once the open records become available. Because Paul had mentioned in his comments that he had been receiving Facebook messages and the text messages and the phone calls over the last 4 days. So imagine my surprise when I finally did receive those documents and there were no disclosures of Facebook messages, no text messages, nor voicemails. Where are they? Where's the proof of your accusations from the last meeting? According to the Wisconsin Department of Justice 19.37, Enforcement and Penalties, the failure to disclose records under the open records request provides for many remedies for this failure to disclose, including attorney fees, damages, and other actual costs. We have proof that these text messages exist by your own words. I don't think any of us want the Wisconsin Department of Justice Open Government Office nor the St. Croix County DA to be involved in this potential withholding of legally disclosable documents. This has the appearance of claiming to being open to discussion from citizens, except if you don't agree with them. Number 2, some have claimed that we're making a mountain out of a molehill, which is another condescending way to say that you really don't want to hear from citizens of the community that may disagree with you. It appears you only want to hear from citizens if they agree with you. As was stated many times, if asking for policies and procedures to be put in place to stop the drag queen story hour is a mountain out of a molehill, then it won't be much effort to put that policy in place. Within 4 minutes of each other at the last meeting between Paul and Tina, Paul said he couldn't stop a lady dressing as a man to read to children, and Tina said that wouldn't happen while she was librarian. What happens when she leaves? Suri covered the Leander, Texas documents, and I don't need to discuss that. But Tina had said that the background inquiries were made about some people, but that turns out it is only staff, not presenters. Also in the open records, it was discovered that the community is well aware of the potential issues that the Drag Queen Story Hour could inflict on our community. One potential corporate donor said he didn't want to donate because of that potential. Is he making a mountain out of a molehill? The Hudson Chamber of Commerce has about 440 businesses listed on their website from last year. Maybe more of those donors need to know about that potential. And lastly, at last month's board meeting, I spoke about the conversation I had with a gentleman in the parking lot about how he believed the Drag Queen Story Hour would never happen here, along with some other colorful words. I told him to check out the book, It's Perfectly Normal, in the children's library. He didn't. I walked over to the very helpful children's librarian and asked her for the book. She kindly looked it up for me, walked over to the children's library shelf, and pulled the book for me. I took it into the boardroom, opened the book to the centerfold, and handed it to the gentleman who accepted the book. The woman next to him saw me hand the book to him. She grabbed the book out of his hands and took it to the children's librarian for her to reshelf. I followed her and said to the children's librarian, I want that book back. She said, I can't give it to you because she's my boss. And I said, I want that book for the board. The woman who grabbed the book out of her husband's hand said, she can have it for the board. Unknown to me at the time, that person is Shelley Tugas, a library employee. Shelley Tugas is the same person whose email to Bernie on September 18th was redacted by the city attorney in the open records request. That redaction will be appealed to the proper authorities. But Tugas wrote a potentially defamatory through hearsay email to Bernie about a certain group of people based on their political persuasion, which is against the vision, the why statement, and the core value statements of the library. There's no disclosure of a response from Bernie to Tugas. Maybe there wasn't any. If you haven't read the open records documents, you should in order to be fully informed. The Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council may be interested in this case and that of the Village of North Hudson. All potential litigation can be avoided just by doing what your fiduciary duty binds you to do with this board. Again, I encourage you to put into place a policy to prohibit the Drag Queen Story Hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I would just like to add a few comments.
Yes, first and last name and where you're from?
I'm Cindy Ruprecht.
Okay.
I live in Hudson. Okay. Diane stole my thunder. She pretty much said everything I was supposed to say. I'm not part of a group here. I'm just a mom, and I'm a patron of this library. I've only been here about 3 years, but I have homeschooled my children since 1982. I have 8 that span from 37 down to 12. I still have 3 at home. I still would like to use the library. I've used Hastings Library, Plum City Library, Menominee, Eau Claire, many libraries, and always felt very confident about bringing my children with me. This library, I have not. I come, I pick out my books, and I read. I have seen some of the content, and it does offend me. I speak for, I may be here alone, but I speak for a large community of homeschool parents, and a great number of them are conservative Christians. And I would have to agree with her. I did come in late last time. I was going to speak then. I know that the drag queens are not on your agenda, although I did hear what happened to Bob Cizek, and it concerned me that he wouldn't consider putting a policy in place. You know, we've had a constitution in this nation, and that's the only reason why we are still a nation. We would have crumbled long ago, because there's been people that have come, people that have gone. And if we don't have a policy here, when you people are gone, things can completely change. But when I came last meeting, when I walked in late, I could tell in the air it was extremely tense, and I did take offense. I thought some of your comments were very insulting and very, very disrespectful. And I only came back, in fact, I was almost ready to cut up my card. But I did come back. I figured I'd give you the benefit of the doubt because, you know, some topics can be very hot. And I didn't see any disrespect coming from the comments. I get very upset when people say, we really want the public to get involved in their government. We really want the public to come out. And then when we do, we don't get a good welcome. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I
Yes.
have a few words. I'm really a newcomer. We moved up here from Hudson in 2013. I'm an educator of over 30 years and a herb cold teacher in the year 2006 and worked with a lot of young children. I also have to applaud I don't remember the person's name, who was the youth librarian, when I called with a concern looking at some of because I'm a mentor for youth at the Trinity Academy, the youth program, the church program, just the magazine offerings in the youth area. And I was with talking with her, and she was so kind. I forget who she was. I don't know if I would know her physically, but she was open with your approval, or with somebody's approval, to let the Brio magazine come in as another choice for young people. Not just always the political and, you know, very sexual some of the teen magazines that are out there today. Because most of my professional life was working with very small children who very appropriately in playtime would try on different, little boys would try on the pink dress and the girls would try on the vest and the tie, and that's very appropriate. But do we need to introduce another agenda here? And I will also say on the other flip side, 40 years of our marriage, you know, Creek, and in Milwaukee area, we had gay and lesbian neighbors, and we still remain friends. They were the best neighbors we ever had. This is not, I'm not judging, okay? That's between them and God, for all of us, how we choose to live our life. However, I just, you know, that younger population, which you serve diligently and regularly, need to be protected, need to just be sheltered. That's my comment.
Okay.
Can I get your name?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, your name and where are you from?
Margie Spaeth, SP.
And then you said your city earlier?
Richmond.
New Richmond, okay.
But originally Oak Creek. Yeah, we're enjoying the tundra up here, but we were from down south originally.
Okay, any other comments? Any other comments? Okay, we'll close that portion of the agenda and we'll move on to the approval of consent agenda items.
Move the consent agenda.
Okay, got a motion to move it?
Sorry.
We need to pull the minutes.
Yeah. So we do need to pull the meeting minutes B from last month.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't need a second on that, right? Pull it.
No.
Okay, pulling B with A, C, D, and E. Motion to approve is on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll call? Oh, because of the poll.
This is consent.
Okay,
Okay. Schrock? Hilker? I need to do roll call.
Yep, here,
Okay. Schrock?
here.
I'm sorry. Hilker? Yes or no?
Yes.
We're gonna roll for the consent
For the consent agenda.
after the item was pulled.
Aye.
Okay?
Thank you. Shaw,
Aye.
Whitely,
Yes.
Commenbarger. Aye. O'Connor.
Aye.
Burning.
Aye. So B, there was a mistake made that Cizik was the board member present and there was no absences, when in fact Tracy was absent and Cizik is no longer on the board.
I move the meeting minutes with that amendment.
Okay, we get a motion to approve the amendment.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Supporting library organizations, do we have any of them here? No? No. Okay. I guess we will move on from number 6, no presentation tonight from our supporting organizations. President's comments, reports, and municipal updates. We'll start with St. Joe is not here. So how about Town of Hudson update?
I don't have one. I was out of town last week, so I didn't make it. I wasn't there
There's
either.
no-
On the 3rd and 4th, whatever.
Board approved the budget, they're,
You know what, I did not get
Okay.
back to, I've been out of town, so I.
okay, yeah, no problem. Nothing from you, Chris?
No.
Okay, how about the village? Tracy, welcome.
Thank
Do you
you.
have anything for us?
No, they did approve the budget, but I think you captured that last time.
Yeah. Okay, how about from the city?
Nothing new.
Nothing new? Okay. All right, president's comments. I have a lot to say, but we got a long meeting ahead of us, so we'll just skip ahead to the next agenda item. Director's report.
Okay, I sent those out. Any questions? I think everything is looking good. We did get the new computers installed on Friday and they wrapped it up on Monday. So those are set for the new year. With Windows 7 no longer being supported, our computers are now up to date. And the public has been really thankful for those new computers. I'm working on a second open records request, and finishing up annual staff reviews. Those are due to the city office by December 31st, so I should have those done. I have finished compiling the policies and guidelines and procedures, so in January I'd like to see if we can't get the personnel committee together to start going through these. They are all compiled, they just have some typos and proofreading to do, but we'll work on that. I did want to show you, we had a grant from the foundation, and we've got these really cool backpack maker, they're different kits. There's a music kit. I was lucky that there were 3 on the shelf, but they have been out most of the time. The bug kit hasn't been out, but I think that might be the time of the year. But we have a coding kit, we have a cake pans, and then the bug kit, and we have a music kit, and a few others. Shelley did mention them all. There's a robotics and a science kit, and a telescope. We've got the escape room that'll be happening. Lots of cool stuff coming up. Santa Claus was here on Saturday. That was a big hit. We had about 180 come through. Chris was here for that. And we will be closed next Tuesday and Wednesday, and again the following Tuesday and Wednesday for Christmas and New Year's.
Sweet.
That's what I've got.
Thanks, Tina. Anything else?
No, unless anyone has any questions for me.
No, I don't. Anybody? Okay. Next up is an action item, email addresses for library board members. So, I think we should have them. I think it should be designated as Hudson Rep 1, Hudson, Town of Hudson 1, Town of Hudson 2, City of Hudson 1, City of Hudson 2. City of Hudson representative, school representative at Hudson Library, Village of North Hudson representative, or something along those lines. If you choose to have the mailbox, you have the mailbox. If you want it forwarded to another mailbox, great. And if you're somebody that doesn't want to use email and you just want to have it bounce back and say, this is how to get a hold of this trustee, that also. But I think for the sake of making sure that people have a proper point of contact for each of us, if they choose to communicate via email, I think that's very important. Yes?
And the client, we're getting a pop address, or how would we?
I think it's Google, isn't it?
I would need to talk to Brian with the city. We could either do through the city, or we can do through the library
With our domain.
with our domain.
That's what I was thinking, not the city, because you are not through the city. You represent the town
Right,
on the library board of trustees, so I think it should be through the library.
okay.
I like the idea about city representative, North Hudson representative, that way people know specifically who's who.
And if there's a board member change,
Yeah,
it's a back end thing, not a whole, and if somebody has that 2 years later, they want to email their board representatives about an issue, they pull up that email address, it's not bouncing back or having to have multiple aliases and all this.
Are there standards for how often we need to check the email box? Just knowing personal, I have 3 different, work email and then home and school, so I just wondered if there was if you thought there would be
I guess between board meetings would be prudent.
okay, like at least once a month, but more often if possible.
Board packets go out usually the Tuesday before the board meeting. I try to get them out
Yeah.
a week in advance.
So the week before that, you can usually will
I
see
send
if
out
there's
the
an agenda
request.
Yeah.
request, okay. Okay, good. Maybe once a week would probably be, and maybe that could be an automatic reply that, messages are checked on a weekly basis or something, and phone numbers and things get quicker to detect or something. Our phone numbers are listed on the website, but we don't.
So I got a question.
Hold on, Chris asked. Then I'll come to you, Jerry.
So with that, are there any, is there going to be any discussion as when to use the mail, when not to use it? Do we alleviate records requests by only strictly using that for library items, or if,
I would say it should only be used for,
well, I mean, only for it, but if somebody wants to email to your personal, can we just say, don't even, reply to, use this address so we always have the record of everything? That's
If somebody you're saying if someone emails you your personal address because they have it,
yeah.
then you contact them and say, or you forward that or whatever to your,
Yeah,
if it's appropriate to do so.
okay. But there's not going to be any guidelines, written guidelines, this is how we should or
no, we
suggested?
probably,
Or
I would say we should have some written guidelines.
Yeah,
Yeah,
be important.
yeah.
just so, I don't know, everybody gets on it, is, how many, 6 people, a quorum?
Oh,
Five's a quorum.
Five's a quorum.
Yeah. So you should never be emailing each other.
Right.
That would definitely be a,
Okay.
Yeah.
Only everybody.
no, you
No,
should
only
never.
Tina can email
Yeah.
everybody.
Right.
You
Otherwise, it's considered a walking
You
quorum.
really shouldn't be emailing each other because it just creates.
Okay. And that can we write that in the guidelines too?
And that was part of what I think a couple of years ago Tina went through, being a board trustee member, kind of some of those basics of that, so that would be good to review too.
Yeah.
Who's our policy committee?
Me,
Marion.
Marion, Chris.
Yeah, when you we write an email one.
So do you guys want to put some policies in place as a committee?
I think we can.
And then move that, like have someone motion to move it to the next agenda? Or I can just move it to the next agenda, right? And someone can make a motion to table?
We talked about doing a policy committee meeting maybe in January. So we'll have to see if we can bring a date for that.
Not the first week.
Okay, great.
I mean, not till after the 10th.
Okay. So the policy committee, you guys will take that up?
Yes.
All right, so we got a motion to move it to the next.
Oh,
yes, I'm sorry.
I had a question, and it had to do with what Katie was talking about. So you said the packet comes out on Tuesday, just so everybody understands, I don't use an email for some of the purposes that have gone on here. So every Tuesday these come out. And then I heard a statement from Katie that said, then a week before that, requests for agenda items come out.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is that kind of routine?
That's kind of routine, and usually, if you have, so Mary, for you, if you have an agenda item, just give me a call
Okay.
before Friday of that week.
Well, my question is much bigger than that. My question is, if I email you back with a request for agenda, is that free information for the world to be shared?
If we get an open records request.
But what if we don't?
Well, then it stays in the confines of that email.
I'll object to the way that has happened in the past, because I don't believe that is true.
What's that?
I'm not tracking.
Information that was requested to be put on an agenda was shared prior to an open records request. This is the problem I see with email.
I'm not tracking, man.
I get it, I understand.
I'm following, I'm very
Yeah,
well.
if you're not following, I mean, I'll spell it out, if you'd like.
No, I think.
There was information that came into the library for an agenda item that was shared with the public. That's
And
how
somebody was
simple it
removed
was.
because of it. This is a sham. Sorry.
So anyway, I'm wondering, what the rules are for that, because it almost makes it like, do I dare reach out and ask for an agenda item? You've kind of put limits on it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay. Anything
No
else?
for the policy, I guess.
Something for the policy committee to take up?
Right.
Okay.
Or it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Maybe just articulating it, because I think it's general, just rules of how a
Well,
board would function
I
with as far as.
think we're thinking too hard about this. The only time that it is made public by request is when there is a request, okay, Freedom of Information Act. Does it have to stay private up to that point? And the answer is no, it doesn't. So, for example, you have somebody that contacts you, you use a library email. Somebody contacts you, you respond using your email. That's not private. They can show that to anybody they want. They can go, blast it to their entire contact network. Same thing is true with anything that you would request. Somebody could show it to somebody. There's nothing that would limit anybody from doing that. but on the other hand, somebody that comes in and says, I want to see all those emails, well, then they have to, they provide a request. If you say, I don't want to show them to you, then they go out and get a Freedom of Information Act request, and you gotta give it to them. But other than that, I mean, if we have an email set up here, there is no privacy with that. You can show that to anybody you want. And so can the people you're communicating with.
Okay.
So I wonder if then with the policy committee, when we meet, maybe part of it's talking about onboarding of board members and some of the procedural things that are in there, just a checklist of some of the stuff that goes in the training, because it's not like everybody comes at the same time and it's new all at once. Different
Right.
people come at different times, so it would be good just to have kind of a quicker one rather than covering at meetings. But that could be something that we can consider and think about, so people know how to kind of function and what to expect.
Okay. All right, as far as emails are concerned then, what do we want to do with it? I don't think we're going to take any action tonight, correct?
Correct. I think the policy committee will.
Yep. So I need a motion to move it to the next agenda or table it, or I suppose if we table it, it's got to get brought back up in a certain order, so move it to next agenda.
With,
We would have to have a policy in place then. If it's being approved all at once, there'd have to be a policy in place before the next meeting, so the next meeting is
January 21st.
21st, okay, so 21st, so we have to meet between the 12th and the 21st, and then have it documented.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to get that quick, because we need to have an agenda, have it posted, have a meeting, and then make a recommendation for an agenda item, so I don't think we'd be able to get it to a meeting until February, and since we've functioned this long without it, I would say,
Yeah.
yeah, let's take the time to get it right.
I agree,
Okay.
but I put it on here just we shouldn't have put it as an action item. So we don't have to take action on it. Can I just table it and then bring it back? Is that
It was just
proper?
discussion.
Okay, so I can do that, right? I can just table it? Or do I need a motion to table
You
it?
should have a motion to table it, but I mean, it's all a matter of semantics right now and procedure. So when you table it, then you would need a motion to pull it off the table as opposed to postpone it until the next meeting and it's just put on the agenda.
So postpone.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm just making sure we're doing this the right way.
Okay.
So postpone,
Yeah.
do we need a motion on that?
Will we postpone it until the next meeting?
Okay, motion to postpone, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second, any further discussion?
Yeah, shouldn't we postpone it to February's meeting? Or am I misunderstanding?
So that the committee can.
Right, what order?
Do the
What
policy,
order
That's
you
fine.
want
Is
it?
that what you want? Yeah, we can,
Well, I think we decided there wouldn't be enough time for the
Sure.
January one.
Sure, okay, all right, so I'll amend it,
Amend the motion.
postpone it to the February meeting.
Okay, motion is to postpone action on email addresses until the February meeting,
And I still second it.
and there's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is approved. Notice of closed section, library director annual evaluation and review. Library board of the Hudson Area Joint Library will meet at approximately 5:30 PM or as soon thereafter as time permits on Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 in room 219.
It's the wrong date.
Wrong date.
You gotta be kidding me.
Is it?
It is. Yes, it is.
No,
Today is
Today's the
the
17th.
it is
17th.
17.
Yeah,
Tuesday the 17th.
Yeah.
Not today.
that's what it says.
Mine says November 19th, 2019.
That's the amended.
The one on,
Amended.
This
one.
is get changed.
the one online says December 17th.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
The one
I
that's
printed
posted?
out.
Yeah, I'm on,
Yeah.
looking online right now.
That's what's online.
I did not bring,
Here, read this.
Thank you. Thanks, Rich. Library Board of the Hudson Area Joint Library will meet at approximately 5:30 PM or as soon thereafter as time permits on Tuesday, December 17, 2019, in room 219, Hudson Area Public Library, 700 First Street, Hudson, Wisconsin, following the conclusion of the consideration of the above portion of its regularly scheduled agenda, to vote on a motion to convene in closed session at said time and place for discussion action relative to one, conduct the library director's annual evaluation. A closed session for the above purpose is authorized pursuant to the provisions of Wisconsin statute 19.851F, which is allowed for considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific person, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, and 19.851C, which allows governmental bodies to use closed sessions to interview candidates for positions of employment, to consider promotions of particular employees, to consider compensation of particular employees, and to conduct employee evaluations. Upon conclusion of the closed session, the library board will convene an open session to consider its public agenda, including motion to recommend approval or rejection of above listed deliberations or any of the public agenda items that have not been acted upon. We need a motion to go into closed session.
Move we go into closed session.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call.
Okay, Burning,
Aye.
Kaufenbarger,
Aye.
Whiteley,
Aye.
O'Connor,
Aye.
Shaw,
Nay.
Kilburn,
Nay.
and Schrock.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved. We are now in closed session.